Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir al-Quran wa Durr, the Juz of Quran spares. In the last session, we have covered, among other things, verses 32 to 36. These are the verses that Imam Ghazali chose, selected from this particular surah as the pairs. And they do end with the following verse. We went beyond this, of course, but just to connect the a previous session with this particular one. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يعش عن ذكر الرحمن نقيض له شيطانا فهو له قرين. And whoever turns a blind eye to the reminder of the most compassionate, we place of course the reminder عن ذكر الرحمن, the dhikr, of course, the making dhikr of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and dhikr also a reference to the Qur'an, and in both cases it is dhikr. So whoever turns a blind eye to the reminder of the most compassionate, we place at the disposal of each a devilish one, a devil, shaytanan, as their close associate. As their close associate. Of course, you need to translate the qareen one way or the other. But the idea of a qareen, it is something that will not be separated from you. Because if you say a close associate, in our modern terminology, an associate, you might, during the, if you have an associate in business, whatever, you might be separated during the weekend. You might be separated, of course, after the work hours. You might spend 8 hours together, but even when you are in the same building, and you will not be all the time together. Not even with your spouse, not even with your children, not with your parents. You will not be together all the time. And this is remarkable. But you will be with Satan all the time. Satan pledged to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is very remarkable, that he will be on our path, that he will be here, that he will be on the straight path, attempting to divert people, to sway people, to tempt them, so that they will be removed, so that they will go on other paths. And this reminds us of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. One day he drew a line in front of his companions, and next to it he drew other lines on both sides, and he explained this is the straight path and there will be other paths next to it. Of course, there are other paths. All the time you will find people who come up with ideas. They might provide a temporary distraction, devastating sometimes. You can see how over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, people toyed with ideas. Say Marxism and no more, communism and no more. You might find one or two here who still think that they could still do something, or they don't know how to get out of the paradigm in which they found themselves. In fact, socialism, capitalism in its original form, not modified, is monstrous. And this new liberalism, where practically if you have enough votes, you could legalize practically anything: gambling, prostitution, uh, drugs. Here we have marijuana, and people don't realize that in the United States, those who visited, they had to go to emergency rooms in 1 year, about 2.7 million, so almost 3 million people from the use of these the vape marijuana, the higher 4 times the concentration you will find in natural marijuana. So physically, it is devastating. God knows, really, Allahu alam, what will be, because this is something new, and I'm sure there will be still studies. Get the numbers, and you can make it legal. There's nothing about whether this is halal or haram. And Satan is there. No vacation, no weekend, no and no shifts like you talk about. Satan will basically be with you as your qareen for only part of the day, part of the year, not even part of your life. And Imam Ghazali did say this in Ihya Ulumuddin, that there is a daily battle, like literally you talk about fight, and the fighting grounds, the battlefield is your heart, where the what he described as the soldiers of the angels and the soldiers of the devils, they fight every day in your heart. And your heart, that's the battleground, but also over your heart. ومن يعش عن ذكر الرحمن نقيض له شيطانا فهو له قرين وإنهم ليصدونهم عن السبيل ويحسبون أنهم مهتدون. Who will certainly hinder them from the right way, like these devilish ones will certainly hinder them from the right way, the right path. As-sabil, here there's only one right way, while they think they are rightly guided. And the problem that is, some people might be fascinated by the idea of freedom, while today there are more people who acknowledge that non-Muslims acknowledging how Muslims are committed, that the only people who could make a difference today, who still have the spiritual strength to make a difference, I would say the Muslims, because of Islam, not because of there's nothing about Muslims that is not when I say when it's something good, really it is Islam. Islam is the very last resort for humanity. Islam is humanity's firewall. If it is breached, I would say humanity is lost. It might sound like too much, but that's really the truth. Legalizing same-sex marriage, you talk about this, donating sperms and ovum, making basically those who donate, hundreds of times. There is such a case. The court literally ordered someone to stop donating his sperms, so he went to other countries to donate. Sick mentality. So people might end up marrying their own siblings as yes, it's Islam. So حتى إذا جاءنا قال يا ليت بيني وبينك بعد المشرقين فبئس القرين. But when such a person comes to us, one will say to their associate, I wish you were as distant from me as the east from the west. What an evil associate you were. East from the west, this is the بعد المشرقين. Here we have of course it's المشرق المغرب. It's between the east and the west. Why did it's تغليب? So basically using one for the other. And in fact, it is. For every Maghrib, every west is an east to that which is beyond that west. Let's choose any country, any city, just simply for geographical reference. Compared to London, in Jerusalem we are east. Compared to London, New York is west. Compared to San Francisco, New York is east. So this is really depends on. So every east is west, every west is east. It's ongoing. Subhanallah. This is why. You might not see it this way, but every line formed during prayer anywhere in the world is in the direction of Mecca. And think about it this way: if you start near the Kaaba itself, it's a circle, and the circle, says, and the circle gets larger and larger until you start praying outside the building of the mosque in Mecca. And today it can host 1 million people at least. And you start having circles outside the building itself, still part of the Haram. And in Ramadan, during Hajj, you might even pray further into the city, and the circles will continue in the streets. And think of these circles growing until they reach far away, until they reach Taif and Medina and Riyadh and Khartoum in Sudan and Aden in Yemen and Amman in Jordan and Jerusalem in Palestine and Athens in Greece and New York and Tokyo. You're always part of that circle. But the timing, this is something, the timing is different. So that's the circle. The timing is different. Every second, practically, there is the sun sets and the sun rises every second. And while I'm talking to you, there is someone who's beginning to say Allahu Akbar as part of the call for prayer for Fajr, and someone doing the same thing for Dhuhr, and someone is doing the same for Asr, and someone is doing the same thing for Maghrib, and someone is doing the same thing for Isha. Every single second. And this is why I'm saying this is for those who really don't understand what they talk about when they speak about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descending during the last 1/3 of the night. And they would like to challenge the Ash'arites who resort to allegorical, metaphorical interpretation when we have something like this, when we have for definitely nothing's like unto him. ليس كمثله شيء. And it is because for us descending or ascending, it's leaving point A to reach point B. This is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also because the very last 1/3 of the night is never ending. As long as there is sunrise and sunset, as long as there is this cycle we have just described, because every second, the very last 1/3 of the night begins time and again, 24 hours a day, every second. So it's impossible. But for the Ma'iyya, of course, it can be. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be with those. Of course, He will. He's omniscient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all-knowing, and He knows all the servants who get up and during the very last 1/3 of the night to pray, supplicate, and remember the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course recite the dhikr and contemplate. الذين يذكرون قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك وقنا عذاب النار. Those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in standing and in sitting on their sides, and they contemplate, they think about, they ponder this, the universe, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the universe, and they reach the conclusion time and again that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create all this in vain. ولن ينفعكم اليوم إذ ظلمتم أنكم في العذاب مشتركون. It will be said to both, since you all did wrong, sharing in the punishment will be of no benefit to you this day. So from a worldly perspective, many people are comforted when they hear of others who went through similar trials as them. But this will not be the case on Judgment Day. Everyone will be desperate to save themselves from the punishment, regardless of others. It's basically nafsi nafsi, to the degree that one will shy away, run away from his immediate family, from siblings. In fact, wishing that he would ransom himself, herself, with siblings, with everyone, to save his own skin. أفأنت تسمع الصم أو تهدي العمي ومن كان في ضلال مبين. Can you make the deaf hear, or guide the blind, or those clearly astray? And of course, if it's really someone who is physically deaf or blind, that's not the issue, not the problem, because you have believers who are blind, for example. Okay, it's about those who choose to be blind, so their eyes are wide open, they see you, their ears are, their hearing is impeccable, but they choose to be deaf, in the sense of they reject the message. You have no access to their heart. If people reject, and this is why in the Quran it's very clear. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requires the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to convey the message. It's not up to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not up to the Muslim scholars, imams, the preachers, if you will, the average person. If you convey the message in the most beautiful way, and best, if of course always in a context where you are generous to the other, and the results are not up to you. It's just like someone who tills the land, sowing the seeds, irrigation, weeding, doing all the things, doing all the things. That's taking in, these are the minor causes, if you will. And ultimately, you'll be here. We recite the Fatiha. Always we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the straight path, and to guide us, to keep us on the straight path, the path leading to the hereafter, in the desirable end, if you will, to paradise, to be in the proximity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the highest thing. Everything is wanted, desired, sought for something else, except when you granted paradise and being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the highest goal, the highest end. There's nothing beyond that. وَإِنَّهُ لِذِكْرٌ لَكَ وَلِقَوْمِكَ وَسَوْفَ تُسْأَلُونَ. Surely, وَإِنَّهُ, the suffix pronoun here refers to the Qur'an. It's a glory for you and your people. It's also a reminder for you and your people, and you will all be questioned about it. What have you done with it? Unfortunately, we have this. Whenever we scroll, whenever So when we watch, it could be soap operas, it could be movies, it could be scrolling one video after the other, it could be reading bestseller stories. What are they? I'm not against creativity. I'm not against, of course, definitely, I'm not against uh, good, good literature. And but what happens is that it could be romance, it could be violence. You just change the names of the character and just toy a little bit with the scenario, the narrative. What I'm aiming at is you read all these things, you watch all these things, and you might watch sports, which is not bad really in itself as a principle. You might watch sports, and a lot of it. Even when you talk about the news, moving from one channel to the other, storing all these negative things. Of course, you need to care about humanity at large, but all this at the expense of the Quran, not reciting the Quran, you will not be asked, you will not be judged on the day of judgment. It will not be held against you if you don't watch these soap operas. As simple as that. And it's a message for us Muslims and even for non-Muslims. As try to read the Quran rather than subscribing to Islamophobic narratives that aim simply at uh, attacking Islam and Muslims. You owe it to yourself to check it out at least once in your life. واسأل من أرسلنا من قبلك من رسلنا أجعلنا من دون الرحمن آلهة يعبدون. Ask the followers of the messengers that we already sent before you, if we ever appointed other gods to be worshipped besides the most compassionate. A couple of days ago, I thought of asking, just simply Googling whether in China there is mass production of religious sacred items, if you will. And the answer came as yes, on a large scale. They produce icons, all these sacred things on a large scale for Christians, Hindus, and Buddhists. Alhamdulillah, there was nothing about Muslims. Ya Rabbak alhamd. And they come with an exact date of being manufactured. So if you buy something, it's that is younger than you. You could be 8 years old, 50, 40, 30, 20, and you are now relying on an object that is 1 day old, 1 month old, 1 year old, that is made that mass production, assembly line. You choose, you can order. Think about it twice. ولقد أرسلنا موسى بآياتنا إلى فرعون وملئه فقال إني رسول رب العالمين. Indeed, we sent Moses with our signs to the Pharaoh and his chiefs. Mala, every one of those despots, of course, Pharaoh went beyond despotism and keeping the children of Israel in bondage, slavery, quasi-slavery, abusing them, killing their children, their sons. The mala is basically the entourage, the who would approve, and they don't open their mouth. Like, for example, all those at the White House, the secretaries of state, the chief of staff, the all those who surrounded the president when he uttered his hateful words against Ilhan Omar and the Somalis. Of course, it's Islamophobic also. It's racist, it's xenophobic. Okay. Did they object? They knew it's wrong. You think they don't know? That's the position of the Mala. In every case, they don't say something good. And when the head of state or because if you talk about the Farah, the Pharaoh, and you have the many Pharaohs, it's all the same. Suffice it, inshallah, we'll go back to the same verse 46 at the beginning of the next session, inshallah. Until then, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.